Well, what is the most important factor for success in a startup, especially in its early stages? Is it an idea? Is it a business model? Or probably is it a big team? Bill Gross, who is a founder of Idea Lab, who has been an investor in more than 100 major companies, he has a very different perspective to this. He says, it's not probably the idea, it's not probably the business model, it's not probably the team itself, it's just the timing. He says that to be at the right place at the right time is what makes a startup important, and that's what it makes a successful startup. We would like to introduce such an opportunity which is very perfectly timed. UK is going through a major change. Brexit is being widely viewed with skepticism by the international community. But every large change comes with a lot of challenges and, of course, with a lot of opportunities. We have an amazing personality with us who will be discussing the opportunities that Brexit could bring to those unique entrepreneurs who go fishing in a tempest. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I welcome Dr. Mike Cheetham, HotPack Global Business Director, on stage. Thank you, Doctor. Joining him on stage today is a big name in the Arab gents fashion. Telal Fashions is an incredible story of an amazing Kerala entrepreneur, Mr. Abdul Salam. Today, the brand has a global presence with over 30 stores and still counting. This unique entrepreneur has also opened their business in the world's premium fashion streets in London. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite the second person on stage, Mr. Hassan Thurabi, who is the director of Telal Fashions. Mike, the stage is all yours. Thank you very much.
As we are, can you hear me okay? Yeah. As we are talking today about 10x, as we are talking today about Kerala, and as we are talking about Brexit, we're very lucky today to have some of my friends from London who are experts in immigration. So I'd like to invite on stage, please, Mr. Simon Ross, one of the partners of Seddons, and his colleague who's an expert in UK and European immigration, Mr. Ahmed Ajina, please.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Like Mike said, the main theme of this event is 10x, and this is the perfect topic that we can have in this venue at the moment, I believe. So we have been hearing a lot about Britain, and the first thing that pops in mind when we hear about Britain is the word Brexit. So among the international community, maybe I'm exaggerating, or it might be not even a truth. So among the international community, when the word Brexit is being heard, it is leaning towards a negative connotation. So so I would ask Mr. Simon about this question. So what is your take on this, the word Brexit, or how will it affect the global economy as such?
It's a word that 3-4 years ago nobody had heard about, and suddenly it's the word on everybody's lips. And for the last 3 years in the UK, there's been nothing else. It's made the headlines and has become a word that is now part of our culture. It's possibly something that nobody thought we were going to have, and we have it, and we've embraced it now. And what is exciting is that we've had 3 years of uncertainty, and what we've now got is some certainty. So we are historically on Friday night at 3 o'clock our time here in the UAE, leaving the EU. We're going to wake up on Saturday morning and nothing really will have changed, but we've entered into a new transition change. So by 31st of December 2020, we will have had to agree a deal, or there'll be no deal. But there will be no doubt a deal. And so for the next 11 months, there will be an awful lot going on in the UK. But in terms of opportunities that it's going to give the UK, now that the choice has been made, those opportunities extend far beyond the EU. So we've historically have been part of them. They spoke for us, customs union and such matters, but from now, we're able to talk to whoever we like. So naturally, the UK are looking to other parts of the world, and that's what's exciting. They'll look to America, but they're also looking to other areas. They will look to India, they'll look to the East, and those opportunities are now there for discussion. So it's actually quite exciting.
Yeah, now as Mr. Simon have explained, talking about opportunities and the possibilities of having the businesses in Britain, we have the right person here who we can take an opinion from, Mr. Mike, who is the director of the global director of HotPack Global. So, Mr. Mike, what would you say about the ease in establishing a business, or what would you say the experience that you had from taking a Middle East-grown business to a country like UK?
I think the most important thing is to get the business ready and strong and solid foundations here in the UAE or in Kerala, first of all. Once you have it, because you don't want to be doing all the adjustments and finding a new business in the UK or Europe. So I'd say the first thing is to get a strong foothold here and then look to the UK. It's the obvious choice in Europe because of the English language. The legislation systems are very similar to here, and we found the UK very receptive. The banks were willing to lend money at very competitive rates, sometimes under 2%, under 3%. Buying a property is very easy in the UK. It's a formality to do the paperwork. You can have 100% ownership of the property, freehold. You can have 100% ownership of the company. You can make a company in the UK. I will often do it as a demonstration with a stopwatch. You can make a company in around 4 minutes. And the cost of making a company in the UK is around £10, and that company is for life. The only cost you have ongoing is a £13 annual charge. So we found the UK very receptive. We found the UK government a great help. The only negative thing we found was that there is a limit on the government investment. Each government in Europe is limited to a cap of 200,000 euros investment. Now, the good thing is that once the UK leaves Europe, it's going to be free of this restriction. So I think it will be a very exciting opportunity to invest in the UK and keep a careful watch on the incentives the UK government will give.
That's really interesting, some of the facts that is stated by Mr. Mike. But when we...
Just adding on to...
Yes, please.
Yeah, just adding on to what Mike was saying, the UK is obviously, it's a very desirable place to globalize and diversify your company and your interests if you were based here. But also you would be able to acquire residence in the UK on the basis of your proposed intention to set up a business in the UK. So if you were a company, for example, based in the UAE or the GCC or India or anywhere else in the world outside of the UK, you would be able to acquire residence on the basis of setting up a branch of your existing company in the UK. That would give you and your family members, wife and children under the age of 18, the ability to acquire residence in the UK. You will get an initial residence visa for 3 years, and then after completing 5 years continuous residence, you and your family members would be able to settle in the UK and will be able to get British citizenship 1 year after acquiring permanent residence. And there's numerous benefits, of course, to being able to reside in the UK, including free healthcare and free schooling for your children. And that would be on the basis of if you're already looking to diversify and globalize by setting up a branch of that company in the UK, you might as well benefit from acquiring residence on the back of that. So that would be another incentive. So the UK is saying, listen, we're open for business, come and set up in the UK. And as a result of that, a shareholder of the company will be able to acquire residence in the UK on the basis of being that sole representative of that company. And him and his family members can reside in the UK and acquire permanent residence and then British citizenship thereafter. Also, the UK company, once it has been set up, will be able to acquire something called a sponsor license. And that sponsor license would give that company the ability to bring in workers from abroad, so highly skilled workers from abroad to work in the UK, and they also will be able to come to the UK with their family members and acquire residence and permanent residence after 5 years and British citizenship thereafter. So we've got a very good UK immigration system, and if you are genuinely looking to set up business in the UK, then there will be immigration options available to you also.
Now, talking about the immigration, like, let's get on to the business side. Like, maybe most of the concerns of various businessmen in this region or from the Indian region would be that, what are the various investment visas that the UK government can provide the businessmen, and what is the help that they can provide in terms
Okay, so the program that I just mentioned to you now, that's the sole representative visa. So that's where there is an existing company outside of the UK which has been operating for at least a year, which intends to set up a branch of that company in the UK. So the sole representative who has been designated by the overseas company to set up the company will be able to acquire residency in the UK, them and their family members. There's another option, it's called the Tier 1 Innovator Visa. That replaced the historic Tier 1 Entrepreneur Visa, which is no longer available, where you would be able to set up in the UK on the basis of a £20,000 investment. So that's no longer available. So instead of that, they've introduced something called the Tier 1 Innovator Visa. In order to acquire residence in the UK under the Tier 1 Innovator Visa, you need to show that you have a minimum of £50,000 to invest in a business in the UK, and those funds have been held and are available to you for a minimum period of 3 months outside of the UK. That's the first requirement, to show that you have that £50,000 available to invest. The second requirement is that you need to show that the business that you're going to invest in is an innovative business. So it would be a startup company, for example. It would be a company that's involved with arts, fashions, designs, tech companies. It's quite specified in terms of the investments that you're able to invest in. But there's a lot of advantages to it. The first being that you'll be able to acquire residence on the basis of a minimum of a £50,000 investment. And the second objective is that you will be able to acquire permanent residence after 3 years as opposed to 5 years under the different routes. But remember, how this differs is that you need to invest in an innovative idea. So it ties up really well with the theme of this event. But in terms of practicality, I would say the representative of overseas business route, that would be probably more easier to satisfy in terms of you would be opening up something that is completely related to the parent company that you would all be involved with in the UK.
As you can see, maybe the whole theme of 10X was, the whole purpose of the 10X must be to bring about the changes in the global economy, and especially UK will be playing a huge part in that phase of the economy that is going to come up in this entire 2020. Now, Mr. Simon, I just wanted to ask you, during the heat of the Brexit talk, there was this statement that was made that the EU structure was an averaging factor preventing individual countries from realizing their true potential and competitive advantage. What would be your comment on that?
Okay. Well, the start point is where we were, which was part of a community. So therefore, to that extent, we lost some of our ability to think for ourselves and to decide what we wanted to do. That's led to some of the choices that are now being made. So when we were in what was called the customs union, it's not our decision. We aren't able to open talks with Kerala, with India, with America. It's all got to be done through the EU. So there is a general equalizing, and obviously the countries that are within the EU are very different. They range from the large to very small. What we've now got is the ability to expand, to look elsewhere, of course, to look at Europe. And Europe is one of our big trade partners. Well, they will still continue it. We're not going to be cutting off overnight. But the next 11 months is going to see an awful lot of change. But there's certainly what is we are now escaping from is the thought that we have to comply. We're certainly complying for the next 11 months. After that, then it's a free rein. And what we've got to see is how that will work out.
I bet UK will be able to be a huge part of the globalized economy, which is right now. And according to Thomas Friedman, I would say one of the biggest researcher who has done a huge research on the globalization, he said globalization is at a phase, and he termed it as globalization 3.0. The power is with individuals or with specific people. So I would like to ask this question to Mr. Mike. So what would be your opinion on the whole concept of globalization, and how could you suggest or advise the Kerala community or the Indian community in general about the concept of globalization?
Can I ask two questions of the audience? How many people in the audience would be interested in starting a new business or a branch in UK or Europe? Okay. And how many of you perceive that to be difficult? Okay. I think the advantage of the UK, if we take the example here of Souk.com. Souk.com arrived very quickly, very successful, and it was bought out by Amazon very quickly. And then we have rivals coming in like Noon.com, again, very successful. When we compare those companies with what we have in Europe, they are still 5 years behind because of the infrastructure, because of the technologies, the logistics. So Europe represents a very good opportunity, despite globalization and despite the fact a business in Africa can start very quickly. It will take many years for the infrastructure to be put in place. Even in a country like the UAE, we are still catching up. So I think when I go back to the UK, I see we are a good 5 years ahead. And I think there is no threat to Europe and the UK at the moment from globalization in the next 5 years. So I think it'd be a great opportunity if the people of Kerala, with their brilliant brains, their brilliant memories, and their brilliant business acumen, would stop looking just at the Middle East, at Saudi, the UAE. It would make me very happy if you would set your sights on the global stage. And I think Europe, the UK, USA, Australia are where you should be setting your sights, not just focusing on the GCC and then going back to Kerala. So,
If perhaps I could just endorse that, but also say in terms of the corporate advantage, it's there, but then behind these corporations are individuals and their families. And from what Ahmed has been describing, the UK is open to business and looking for individuals and families to settle in the UK. And provided one complies with these criteria, it's a pretty simple structure, and you are rewarded within a relatively short space of time with a very secure home. And traditionally, England has been very multicultural, and there are lots of opportunities for families to bring their cultures to the UK. And with what we've now found with our Brexit decision, UK is going to be looking very much to other places to develop the idea that immigration isn't going to happen. is very wrong. It is going to happen, but it's going to be in a different way. Because, just again, historically, the EU was freedom of movement. There was no discussion as to whether you fitted a criteria or what business you were going to have. You just made a decision, I want to settle in the UK, take advantage of the things that they can do for you. Here, it's very much, what can I do? What can I bring with my family? And what can I do once I'm there? And Keralans, Indians, being very entrepreneurial people, it's a great place to display that. So I think from both the corporate and the personal side, it's a very good thing to think about.
Hassan, if I might turn the table round on Hassan. If we look in the UAE, probably 50% of the significant businesses come from Kerala. And yet, from my knowledge in the UK, I probably can't name more than 10 of those businesses which have expanded into Europe. If we take Telal, which is a very well-established brand in the region, they have recently opened a flagship shop in Knightsbridge, London. So perhaps I can ask Hassan to tell you his experiences.
So the main person is sitting right in the audience, my dad, who is the founder of Telal, since Telal Group in general. And our aim was basically to, like we had discussed here, to enhance the scope of our business operations. So our initial vision was to expand across the Middle East, but again, I would say that would be the typical Keralite mentality to come from India to UAE and establish businesses, or Middle East in general, and establish business here and just stay there. But my dad just wanted to think different, and he wanted to expand beyond that. So he visited the UK. He did a small research on the country of what is the scope of our business operations there, and he found out that the potential is very high. And on a later stage, what you can see now is that we have, like Mike mentioned, and with a lot of help from Mike and the government and Mr. Ahmed sitting right here, we have established a good flagship store right in the Knightsbridge, London, and its name is Tesal London now. So the experience has been really smooth, and we have gained a lot of more opportunities now that it has given more exposure to other governments and other countries. So I would say that is something that we should all give it a try. Now, adding on to the previous question, like the individuals and the globalization 3.0, which basically says...
We're competing now.
Okay.
With a hurricane.
Pardon. I hope you can hear it. Yeah. So adding on to the point that I mentioned earlier, globalization 3.0, which is the current phase of globalization, the power is with individuals or with a group of number of people. And they are the ones who is making the decisions of how the economy forms. Or maybe it is going to happen, or it is already happening. So in that kind of a scenario, we can see that there's a lot of potential and powerful individuals that is present in Kerala in itself. I'm just focusing on Kerala at the moment. And maybe there are people right now in the audience who are really capable of looking at the globalization in general for their business practices. So what would be your advice to them, representing UK, the government, and also taking in the fact about the changes in the economy of UK post-Brexit?
Okay. Well, certainly the obvious scenario is that they've got to watch what's going to happen in the next 11 months, because there's going to be a lot of decisions. 3 years ago, it happened overnight, and immediately people were setting up meetings. They were planning what was going to happen. Nobody knew, and we spent the last 3 years being told something and then being told it was changing, being given one date and then that date passed. So what we've now got is a period of time this year, which is going to be very exciting, to see what goes on. And as part of that, Britain will be talking to all the various different areas. And if one is an influential person in the region, then one would want to take advantage of that. I would imagine that people in Britain will be receptive to hearing what businesses from Kerala would be able to do. You've heard from Ahmed that there are opportunities, there are ways to bring in not just individuals, to bring in representatives of the business, to bring in staff, because one needs specialist knowledge. And if that business has a theme relating to Kerala, then it can't be a situation where it's full of people that haven't got the experience of the region. But it will certainly be an awful lot of change. By the 1st of January 2021, so by the time we may be sitting in 12 months' time on this forum, there'll be a lot more decision. But this year is a year where something is going to happen, and what it's got to do is not just be relating to the EU. The whole purpose was to expand, and therefore there are going to be advantageous situations. It's a secure place to come and bring your family. It's a secure property environment. We've got a very established and secure land registry. We've got property that because of what's gone on in the last 3 years, among other things, there's been an adjustment. It's a good time to buy. The pound is not as strong as it was, so there is a real advantage to bringing money in. The banks are certainly, subject to reaching the criteria, are happy to lend. So if you have a legitimate business with figures, with the ability to show an established scenario, the UK is delighted to welcome you.
That's interesting. So Mr. Ahmed, can you please shed more insight on, as Mr. Simon has mentioned, the UK is more than happy to get specialized individuals or people with innovative ideas.
So the impact of Brexit basically on UK the impact of Brexit on UK immigration. So what we found is that as a result of Brexit and the UK leaving the European Union, it's become a lot easier for non-EU companies and high net worth individuals and business owners to acquire residence in the UK. What we found is that the number of applications which have been approved ever since the Brexit decision until now has increased significantly by up to 30% compared to the decisions prior to Brexit. So what we found is that the Home Office now and the British Embassy are looking at applications very holistically, and they're not looking at the faults of an application, rather they're looking at the fact, based on the balance of probabilities, is it more likely than not that this organization will contribute to the UK economy? And the answer to that is yes. So that's why the number of applications which have been approved post the Brexit decision has increased significantly compared to the applications prior to Brexit. So that's based on the current immigration system as it is now. Now, following 31st of January 2020, when the UK formally leaves the European Union during this transition process, the Home Office are going to announce, the Home Office is the UK Ministry of Interior. They're going to announce new immigration categories to the UK. That's unlikely to be business and investment visas. Rather, it's going to relate to work permits. Currently, in order to acquire residence in the UK on a work permit, you have to be at a very high skill level. So, for example, doctors, dentists, very qualified engineers, architects, etc. If you were, for example, a low-skilled worker or a medium-skilled worker, for example, a teacher, a lecturer, or, for example, a general manager at a hotel or a restaurant, you wouldn't be able to acquire a work permit in the UK. However, as a result of Brexit, they're going to lower the skill requirement so that it catches low and medium skilled workers as well. And that's to replace the net migration of European nationals outside that are leaving the UK and the net reduction of European nationals who will be able to come into the UK after the 1st of January 2020. So European nationals, such as, for example, Hungarians or Slovakians, for example, they're going to be considered on a par with Indian nationals or nationals from Iraq, Lebanon, Yemen, etc. So there's going to be new immigration categories which allow workers to acquire work permits in the UK. So that's another positive of Brexit. So not only have we found that Brexit has had a positive impact on non-EU business owners, high net worth individuals and investors in terms of the increased number of them coming into the UK, but also for low-level and medium-level workers, so professionals or just migrant workers. What we're going to find is that there are going to be new categories for them to be able to acquire residency in the UK, which didn't exist prior to Brexit.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. And last but not the least, I want to ask Mike, I would say a personal question. Not personal, but something related to our country, our place, Kerala. So, and I love asking this question to people who are very close with the Kerala community. Like, what do you think about in general, about the Kerala community and the way the Kerala businessmen think, and what do you think is the next opportunity that they can look into? Or what are the potential you can do? Yeah.
It's a good question. And we are taught not to stereotype, but as most of my friends are from Kerala, I will stereotype. I think I'm qualified. So the greatest thing I see in the people from Kerala is that you are very educated. I remember when I first went to Kerala, they used to have 2 signs coming out the airport. One was God's country, God's own country, and the second sign was 99% literacy.
Yeah.
I think those still prevail. I greatly like the family values that you have in Kerala. The parents will build a business for the children will go away, study, they will come back and bring innovative ideas to the family business. And I think you have great business judgment. I will spend half a day planning 4 different answers. I will present them to the management, and the management from Kerala will come up with another 2, far superior, that I never thought of. So I would like to see you step outside of this region. I would like you to take off the blinkers and realize that these skills in business can be applied around the world. To stop thinking about the GCC and to think about the global stage for business.
All right. I hope and wish that is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, and we can see the difference. Thanks a lot, Mr. Mike, Simon, and Mr. Ahmed for this valuable information.
For questions?
Thank you very much. May I request the guests to please stay back. I would like to invite Mr. Bishruddin Sharki, the member of the organizing committee of Business Conclave 2020, to please come forward. We would like to express our thanks to the whole panel for being with us this afternoon. May we call upon Dr. Mike Cheetham to please accept a token of appreciation from the Come On Kerala Business Conclave 2020. First, Mike Cheetham.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mike Cheetham, the Global Business Director for HotPack Global. The second panelist, Mr. Ahmed Ajina, the UK immigration lawyer from Seddons. Mr. Hassan Thurabi, the Director of Telal Fashions. Mr. Simon Ross, the Managing Partner of Seddons. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining.